Next up, in news that we all knew was coming, but it actually arrived, Blizzard has officially announced that development updates on StarCraft 2 major ones, are coming to an end now. That's the show. So they talked about, like, the fact that there might still be some balance work done here and there, but no more major content updates or whatever. And this comes at basically the 10-year mark, give or take, of the launch of StarCraft 2. So, with or without Blizzard being the Blizzard that they are right now, it's been a decade. This should probably not be a surprise. Even if Blizzard was still there, I think at this point it would have been wise for them to say the same thing. I mean, I don't even think Brood War didn't get content updates for a decade. It got balance changes for a decade, but otherwise it was more or less the same game since launch. So they did right by it for a very long time, far longer than pretty much any other game company would bother with. And now we just sit and wait to see how much, if any, real balance stuff gets done. But at this point, in the esports scene, this is where I fully expect Brood War to creep up and completely surpass StarCraft 2 again. It's still majorly popular in Korea. There's actually new and young players entering the tournament scene in Korea for Brood War. I think this is where StarCraft 2 just kind of like settles into its community, and we get community tournaments and stuff, and then that's where we're at.
StarCraft is already settled in.
Yeah.
This news isn't really news. This is like, I mean, it's okay. It doesn't change anything. So for anybody that is like, oh my God, Blizzard's no longer, basically updating the game. It's done.
Yeah,
I mean, the game is done. In terms of like, you're not going to get any more expansions. You're not going to, it's going to be very minimal stuff that you're going to see come out for StarCraft 2. Balance updates once a year. And that's going to be basically it. You won't even see them fucking tweet about the game. It's making them no money. They want out. And that's fine, because the StarCraft 2 community is still going to host StarCraft 2 community related tournaments. Now, with that being said, there's still 2 years left of the money that Blizzard put in place for StarCraft 2 tournaments and Reforged tournaments or whatever. So we'll see what happens in 2 years. If Blizzard decides to do another cash injection, which I don't think they are, judging by what they're saying here, they're going to be done, and then StarCraft will just run on its own.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. But with this announcement, I think it hurts the moral, what's the word I'm looking for? The
morale,
the morality, or the
morale, like you talking
morale. There we go.
Just the morale.
Just the morale.
Yeah.
It hurts the morale.
Yes.
Of a StarCraft 2 fan.
Yes. Yeah.
They didn't need to come out and say this, because they've already been doing this. What this announcement does, is it just creates confusion. It creates doubt. It basically highlights something in a negative light that they've already been doing. So why come out and say this and just keep running it the way that you've been running it? Because you're going to hear a lot of people now say, okay, now StarCraft is really dead. It's basically Heroes of the Storm. They're not doing anything with it. They do the odd balance update or whatever, and that's the show. And so you just basically put it into a box. And I think the announcement hurts it more than the outcome of it, because we've already been living this outcome. They're done with it. So, for all the StarCraft 2 fans out there, don't worry about this. Nothing changes. There's not going to be any less or any more StarCraft because of this. It is what it is. I just think it just creates a little bit of chaos amongst stuff. And it is sad to see that there's going to be no more cooperative updates and things like that people enjoy. So that part's a bummer. But don't sweat it too much. StarCraft is still going to be StarCraft, and the hardcores are still going to be hardcores. Plus, we got some good RTS news this week.
Yes, which is attached to this, because many Blizzard devs and leads now form Frost Giant, a new studio, who are themselves working on a new RTS that's raised a fairly substantial amount of money and includes investment from Riot themselves. It's not an enormous amount of money. I think I saw the amount was somewhere in the neighborhood of like 4.3 million or something along those lines. That's like Baby's first Kickstarter as far as like video game money goes in the year 2020.
It's good. It's enough to pay your employees and get things going.
Yeah, you're paying the employees, and you can occasionally afford a pizza Friday for the employees at that point. So not a huge amount of money, but still good to see that there is some interest, and specifically from Riot, who I believe somebody I saw was mentioning that they had sent out a survey not long ago asking if there was interest in the RTS genre, and so perhaps based on the responses they were getting in that, they which they've already likely been out in the market looking anyway. Maybe this was another one of those things they pointed themselves in that direction to get their hands involved in it. If you want to know actual names, I mean, you can easily go and check the Frost Giant homepage, but the team is headed specifically by Tim Morton, who was the former production director and the man who led StarCraft II into its free-to-play live service model, and Tim Campbell, who was the original lead campaign director for Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne. So they've got more than just those two guys from Blizzard. There's a long list
artists,
there.
You name it, they've got them all.
And so,
a lot of them.
Yeah, quite a number of them. So you rest assured, it's whatever game they inevitably come up with here, or whatever it ends up being, it's going to look a lot like a fucking Blizzard game. And it's probably going to play a lot like a Blizzard game. And for some people, that's, a positive thing, especially given the fact that most of these guys are from an era of Blizzard that we associated with quality. And so that is a positive thing to latch on to. The thing is that for me, I'm excited for this to see what they can do, because nobody else is really doing an RTS that would be competing with StarCraft or Warcraft in that regard. Most RTSs are like RTS meets, grand strategy. They're a little bit, they're I want to say too elaborate, but it's not necessarily what I mean, but you know what I mean? It's a little bigger.
It's more single player focused.
Yeah,
too.
It's like closer to single player.
It's not a competitive
it's
RTS.
It's not built like raw for competitive stuff. So yeah, I suspect that's probably the way they're gonna likely go, and ultimately, for me right now, what I would need to see is them getting more money, because $4.3 million does not a good RTS make. RTS from the ground up with no previous assets and no engine to really work with is an expensive endeavor.
Yeah. Well, they said it was a seed round one, so I'm sure they're gonna they'll
get
come
more
up with, a proof of concept and show their models, and then we get more money. So I'm not really worried about that. The thing that gets me excited is all of the guys that are involved in this, and the girls that are involved in this. They all come from RTS. They all love RTS. They're the right people. The only people they're literally missing is like Dustin and Michael Morheim, who are over at Dreamhaven, doing whatever. I would have been uber excited if it was a Dreamhaven. It was under like the Dreamhaven umbrella.
They do. I mean, Mike's portion of Dreamhaven is more of a money like acquisition, and like he's like the sugar daddy.
Maybe they get on board with Frost Giant, and then you have literally the actual RTS gods. And I mean, this group of people are basically the overlords, pun intended, of RTS.
Yeah.
So if somebody's going to come out and generate the hype, somebody's going to come out and create an RTS and actually make a real sort of a sequel, the next big thing of StarCraft. And when I say sequel, I don't mean like an actual StarCraft property, but the next RTS that is going to be celebrated and played and taken serious. These guys are the ones to do it, because I don't believe that there's any other company, Riot included, unless they had these individuals working at Riot for this specific game that could get all of the influencers, the professional players, all pumped up and ready to go for whatever RTS that they're making. And when you have that, it's going to create that foundation for the hype. It's going to create the foundation for the players, and the credibility for people to actually play this thing and for it to start off on a good foot. So I'm actually very excited about this. This is still at the very infant stage. They don't even know yet, and I've been reading up more and more on this. They don't even know if they're going to create a new IP. They might actually end up using another IP and building an RTS on that, So we don't know exactly what they're going to do. They don't even know if it's going to be a sci-fi, if it's going to be a modern day thing. We have no clue, and they don't even really know. The only thing that they know is that they've raised some money. They've got all the right people on the same page for the same thing, and just they're going to go and create something that they love for the hardcore RTS gamers. And the big thing that they also said is they're going to make it so that it's more casual friendly, but still keeping the very high competitive stakes of what an esport and the professionals want. So instead of just making it easier for not hardcore RTS fans to get in and actually play the game and enjoy it, but then still catering to us, guys like myself that are in it for it being extremely hard. That's what makes RTS. If you dumb it down like a MOBA, no offense, I'm sorry. I know that, there are MOBAs out there that are harder to play, and I get it, but let's keep it 100. StarCraft is the hardest game competitively to play on the planet. It always has been. It always will be until maybe we have the next big RTS, and it needs to stay difficult, and it needs to have that integrity for it to be the next big thing that we celebrate for the next 15 years or the next 20 years. And if they want to take StarCraft off its throne, because ultimately, in order for RTS to really be big as well, another RTS, we're gonna need to convert. StarCraft 2 almost needs to die. Brood War is going nowhere. I mean, I don't give a fuck what listen. It could come up. Frost Giant could come up with the single greatest thing since sliced bread, and it could be incredible. Nothing is dethroning Brood War in terms of its loyalty and its place in gaming history and where it will continue to go. That's just cemented. But StarCraft 2 is kind of this thing that we tolerate and we play and we enjoy because it's all we have. If Frost Giant comes up with a great game, we almost need StarCraft 2 to die and have this next thing take its place. And I think it's very possible with this team. And it's very, very telling. And I was reading something about with these guys in an interview. They tried to get StarCraft 3 or another RTS being made in Blizzard. They tried. And Blizzard did not want to fork the money out to make an RTS because it's not profitable. They didn't want to make it. So what did these guys do? They all formed their own little thing. Morheim left as well. It's funny how all this shit has happened. You can plainly and clearly see that people love RTS, and it's almost like all the ones that were involved with RTSs within Blizzard are gone. They're gone. They're doosted. They're fuck this. I'm out of here. And now they're all getting together to create something else. This gets me excited. I mean, I'm jazzed about this. And to think that we might have a playable beta or an alpha in the next few years is nice. And by the time StarCraft 2 runs out with this cash injection that Blizzard has, hopefully we'll have some sort of prototype or alpha to play to get people excited so that people just don't give up on RTS in general. And we have some sort of sense of direction and where we can go in a couple of years. There's nothing more. Listen, man, I'm getting older. And I'm speaking this from StarCraft passion here because a lot of people here forget that I love me some StarCraft. I love it more than anything. I love it more than Grand Theft Auto. I love it more than any other fucking League of Legends or any other game I've ever played. StarCraft 2 is a massive part of my life. It really is. I wouldn't have any of this if it wasn't for the love that I have for StarCraft. The reality is it just wasn't lucrative anymore. It just wasn't the thing to do and a smart business decision to keep doing it. The thing is I'm getting older. And what I love hearing with this team is they all understand me. They all understand me as a gamer and understand the StarCraft 2 enthusiast. We're an older generation of gamer. We would love to have the new generation of gamer join in on the fun. Love to have them. They understand that they got to dumb it down a little bit, or at least not dumb it down, but make it more accessible for the new generation to kind of latch onto a part of the game or maybe a mode of the game that they can play and enjoy and promote and celebrate. They get that. But what I love about this team is they're diehards. It's like if you had a favorite musician, a band, and the band had some phenomenal music and they're full of talented people, and they create this decade or 2 decades of awesome music, and then they disband. And they disband because the record label is saying, yo, guys, we don't want you making this type of music anymore because we need the Taylor Swift fans to start buying your albums. And they're like, nah, bro, I'm sorry, but we understand real music. We're real musicians back here. We actually play instruments. We have talent. No offense, Taylor Swift. You're talented and great, but you're dumbed down, all right? So we actually have talent here, and we're not about to create your fucking garbage music to sell records. And this is the reason why all of the big heads and the ones that understand community left Blizzard. They're gone because the soul of Blizzard is dead. They want money. That's it. And that's fine. Have your money. But they want it to the extreme where they don't give a fuck anymore about community and about what we want as the ones that helped Blizzard get to where Blizzard is today so that they could be bought out for $1 billion and then sell the fuck out. I get it. So what do? They lost everybody, essentially. It's dead there. It's a heartless money soul train. That's what it is. It's just facts. So all these guys, these musicians, the ones that actually play the guitar, the ones that are creating the riffs that everybody else copies in today, the ones that actually don't have to use auto-tune and spice it up and do everything engineer-wise behind the scenes to make the smoke and mirrors so that it sounds good. The real musicians, the real artists, the ones that love the genre of RTS are actually getting together to create magic again. And they don't have this money overlord going, no, there's not enough microtransactions. No, we need the 14-year-olds on board. We have these real musicians or these artists that are coming back together. They've got the band back together, Adam. And here's the spoiler alert. They know how to still play music. The real music that speaks to my soul, not to a 14-year-old that's doing the floss. They're out here creating and not going at RTS in a way that is going to be uber, ultra, super amazingly commercial successful. They're going to make a successful game, but they're going to do it with integrity and with community and heart. And that gets me excited that they don't have Blizzard Activision over their fucking throats telling them they need to do it this way, that way. They've got a bunch of nerds together that love the nerdiness of RTS, that understands the genre more than anyone else ever in the history of RTS. And they're getting together and they're bringing the band together. That's what gets me pumped. And the fact that we could have a shell of a game in a few years gets me fucking amped. Because in 3 years, Adam, I'm going to go, what is gaming for me? Because gaming for me now sucks. I want a game that I can fall in love with that I can grow with, not just in a streaming standpoint, but for just an enjoyment standpoint. And they get it. And they're hopefully going to make something that I can play for the next decade. So when I'm 42 years old and my son's down here playing Fortnite 7, I can actually sit down and play whatever Frost Giant is playing and enjoy it and not feel like I'm playing a fucking cartoon for 12-year-olds. Something sophisticated, made by real artists that understand what I want as a gamer. And if it blows up and it's a big esport, that's even better. That's even better. So yeah, sorry, I'm going on a little bit of a rant, on a bit of a tear right now.
By all means, it's nice to have a week where you're doing it and not me.
But I'm just excited because I love RTS. It's in my blood. And finally, I don't have to get excited for some publisher I have no fucking clue who they are that's dabbling in RTS, and then just like part of me just prays and hopes it's good. And it always ends up not being StarCraft or not being Warcraft or not being that type of competitive, and not even just competitive, but that quality, the attention of detail. That it factor, that fucking thing that you wake up in the morning, you know, I can't fucking wait to ladder today.
You want to know what the secret sauce is there, Jeff? Pride in your work is the difference maker. The difference between the majority of games that are out there, popular or not, and what you're discussing right now, and the people that were at Blizzard making these games and why they were so much better in their genre than everyone else, is because everyone, from top to bottom, from Mike Morheim down to the dude who fucking collects coffee and sweeps the floor, had enormous amount of pride in their work and were masters of their craft at the same time. That's a rare combination. It was the old slogan at Blizzard of it'll be released when it's done.
Yeah.
You know, the classic, there was no release date. It was, we'll let you guys know. And you only say that when you give a fuck. You don't even set expectations. you don't even say that, like, coming out, you know, July 2021, and then you get to like March and you're like, all right, it's actually going to be December 2021, and then it's, you know what, you don't even say that. You just say, you know what, it's going to be done when it's done, and we'll let you know. And that's okay, as long as when you release that, it's a fucking home run. And Blizzard pretty much did nothing but create grand slams.
Yep.
But if you try and do that shit, and you're not making a home run, or you keep delaying your game ad nauseum and setting expectations, you're just doomed to fucking fail. I
agree.
That is the difference, is pride in your work and skill. That in combination together. That's all it is. All of these people that are on this project, enormously skillful, masters of their craft. Best in the industry within that genre, and that's not even a subjective thing. That's actually just reality. That's no offense to other people in the industry. It's not that you're not good. It's just these guys are better, and by a margin quite large.
And they look like,
and then the second step to that is they give a fuck.
Yes.
And here's the thing, is that a lot of like the little guys, in terms of like the guys not making the decisions. So the actual developers, meaning like the programmers, the artists and stuff, most of the time they give a fuck. But their ability to produce greatness is hindered by the guys making the decisions in the form of timelines, unrealistic goals, scope, reliance on mechanics and shit that you know are going to go fucking tits up, reusing old hardware and old software, millions and millions of years old. That's the kind of shit that holds you back. These guys are going to have the guys at the top of the company be unmatched in their craft and unmatched in their passion for the specific genre that they're getting invested and involved in. And that goes down the chain throughout every employee in that company. And that's why you are very likely to see, even though it is an RTS, and it isn't, generally speaking, a profitable genre to enter into, you will still see those guys and girls get funding in multiple rounds because of who they are, and that people know that all they do is produce good video games. That's all they've ever done. It's if anyone else tried to do this, they aren't going to make $4 million in the first round. They're not going to make $4 million in all the rounds. RTS as a genre, if it isn't these people making it, is, in my opinion, and some people would disagree, dead as far as developers and publishers are concerned, because it simply doesn't make enough money. You are not going to spend all of your time and energy and resources to make a game that has such a low probability of making any real return. These are the guys that have a hope in fucking hell of making an honest-to-God return on their work for making an RTS. Yep. And I wish them all the luck in the world, because even though they are those people, they're the fucking A-team. The fact of the matter is that RTS is an extraordinarily difficult genre. Making one from scratch is even more difficult. And while a lot of these guys have been involved at building out RTSs and stuff, I don't know how many of them have been there from building it from floor up. If you know what I mean.
A lot. And not only that, when you're right, it is extremely, extremely tough. These guys can do it. And they even said building one from the scratch is a process. Just wild. It's a process. It's one that they're looking forward to tackling. But the great thing about it is because they have this team, if you go to any StarCraft 2 caster, player, personality, anybody in the last week, and you go to their Twitter,
that's all they're talking about. Yeah, they're all coming out the woodwork. Yeah,
nobody that I've seen is not excited about this. Oh. And that's something that no other RTS that has had to date. No other RTS, and I don't think anybody else. They? Well, I mean, people love RTS, and StarCraft isn't thriving. I mean, it's not in a horrible place by any means, but
I think a lot of it is they're getting excited because StarCraft is dying out. A lot of these guys, and this is not to say that to take away from their hype. I'm looking forward to this too, and I'm not even an RTS player, but to keep in mind, these are a bunch of guys. You're seeing everyone come out the woodwork. Every caster that's ever lived, new and old. Every player that's ever lived, new and old. It gives them hope. They're like, I can come back into relevancy. Like they're all getting excited. Not to mention, withstanding this game is like 5 years away from having a hope of being out if we're lucky. It's that, but it speaks to the StarCraft's community specifically in terms of within the genre of RTS, how desperate they are to have that feeling again and get back into it again. And what it tells me is that they might love StarCraft, but they're ready to love something else.
Yeah, that's true.
No, and since they're all Blizzard employees, pretty much, that makes it all the more juicy for them, right? Is that because it's like they want to love StarCraft. And outwardly, they put their whole lives into it pretty much, and so they don't even want to publicly announce that they're not even that into it. But I think deep down in their heart, they're not all that into it, and they're looking for something else to grab onto so that they can continue it. Because if they could go backwards to Brood War, they would, but nobody's going backwards to Brood War. You're either in Brood War now, or you're not, and you pretty much have to live in Korea to make that happen. But either way, very exciting in general. I will be wildly interested in how much money this thing makes in the various rounds of funding to see what the industry guys think. We all know what we think.
Yeah.
We're all hyped, but the guys with the money that are going to fund this game, we don't know exactly how they're going to react to this. But like we said, if anyone was going to get the money,
these guys.
This is it. And if they don't get all the money, then you might as well just fucking throw this shit out the window.
Straight up.
This is it. This is your marker. This is the is it even possible? The watermark.